sort of rang Mrs. and I think I bought a fucking church.
What?
Yeah. Do you know that idea that I loosely mentioned briefly once when we'd had a few pints? Yeah, I've just gone all in on that.
A skeptic can be right 99% of the time. An optimist only needs to be right once.
That's dumb. I didn't think that.
He said, one day I just saw 10 million quid in my bank and I've never been more miserable.
Money doesn't make you happy. Correct. Does it give you the options to make you happy? It fucking does. Yeah. I can tell you now, I'm a lot happier than I've ever been.
Welcome back to the A-Game Unfiltered podcast. Today we have the pleasure of hosting Eddie Whittingham. Eddie actually owns the podcast studio that we're recording in today. He's got an unbelievable story. He went from working 9 to 5 to bootstrapping his startup as a sole founder and then selling it to a NASDAQ listed company in a multi-million pound exit. He's got so many incredible gems in this. He's extremely humble. I know you're going to enjoy it.
Eddie, how did a daft lad from Scunthorpe go from working 9 to 5 to becoming a multi-millionaire?
Not a straightforward journey. They're obviously my own words. You're not insulting me there.
I know. I was just
Cheers, lads. I'm off.
Yeah.
Self-proclaimed daft lad. No, so I grew up working class, Scunthorpe. You guys may or may not. You're not a million miles away. Bit of a shithole. Love it dearly, but there's just not a lot there. It's just a classic steelworking town. So grew up with a relatively limited view of what opportunities there are out there, in terms of job opportunities, in terms of even daft stuff like travelling, stuff like that. It's quite a small town. It's kind of like your aspirations, if you're from Scunthorpe, are get married, have a baby, and then decide what to do with the rest of your 20s. Pretty standard, boring upbringing, really. Semi-detached, shared room with my brother, 3-bed semi kind of thing. When I decided my infinite wisdom, I'd go into the police. So I joined the police when I was 18, which is really young, probably too young, truthfully. I remember going to the training centre. I was the youngest there by quite a margin. So I definitely went into that career very, very naively. Enjoyed it. I was good at it, but knew I didn't want to do it forever. So then it was kind of well, now what? And then I studied law. So I dropped my hours in the police from full-time down to part-time. I say part-time, 30 hours a week still in the police. So I still did 30 hours in the police, studied then full-time, did the law conversion kind of course, although that's another long story. I kind of cheated the system a little bit. Then I did my legal practice course, and then I went into law, and I just knew straight away that that was a mistake. I landed in, I'd gone from being a copper jumping over a fence on a Friday to sat at a desk doing pension law. It's my first seat of a trainee, sort of 6 months. I was like, oh, fuck, this is quite boring. And I realised then I probably had made a mistake. And I'd also spent a lot of money getting there because I'd taken out 20k loan to do it. I wasn't eligible for student stuff because I was a bit older. I think at that point, when I'd realised I made a mistake, that's when the brain started ticking in terms of changing career, I guess, or trying to decide what to do next. And I've always been relatively keen to just try stuff. So when I was in the police and my mates were all at work 9 to 5, I had days off in the week. So I was like, I'll go volunteer at a radio station just for the crack and learn something new kind of thing. I've always had it in me, I guess, to just go, fuck it, I'll just do something different if I want to. And then it was while I was working at the law firm, I was working in the commercial litigation department, and we were getting these reports in, debt recovery reports. So just basically saying, is someone worth suing? Have they got any assets? And I was looking at them thinking, they're a piece of piss. I could do them in my sleep. I think it was fuck all money, 120 quid a report at the time, plus 120 plus VAT, I think it was. But I thought, if I can do 10 of them a month, it'll take me fucking 10 hours and I can escape. So I managed to blag a part-time job doing, of all things, university lecturing, which I'm definitely not suited to. And I do feel sorry for the people that I taught. So I did that just to literally fund me getting started. So I left the law firm, did the part-time university lecturing to give me some money coming in the door. I worked on a weekend effectively. It was a private one. It was the law school, so they opened on a weekend. And then in the week, I was trying to build this, what was effectively a corporate investigation business, not what I wanted to do. You can imagine my mum, I've gone from copper, she was quite after telling her mates about that. oh, he's a lawyer now. Love telling the mates about that. Now he's doing like some sort of weird private investigation thing. He's not really making any money. So I did that for a bit. And then it was while I was there, I joined an accelerator program in Manchester. It was run by one of the banks. And it was while I was there that I saw a bit of a bigger opportunity. So we had a talk someone come in to do a talk and basically was saying, like, rather than selling your time for money, why don't you build something and sell that multiple times? And that sounds fucking stupid, but it kind of like blew my mind, because I was probably, I guess, going back to that sort of naivety and from a kind of limited background, I didn't know anyone in business. I hadn't had exposure to it. I didn't understand different business models. Didn't even know you could I didn't understand anything about investment other than Dragon's Den. I didn't really understand you could even sell a business, particularly apart from the work I'd done at the law firm. And so that changed my mindset a bit. And I pretty much from that meeting, I was like, fuck this. I can't be asked doing these reports, 120 quid a report forever. This is going to kill me. Albeit it was better than working in law. And I went back to my desk, started scribbling down different ideas of what maybe I could do and what my kind of background was in. And slowly eventually, it started off super wide, and I slowly narrowed down then on the idea of this online training. And like I said, it started off super wide, and then it got a lot sort of narrow in sort of focus. And then just it's sort of right place, right time. It was a growing market. GDPR just came around, which massively accelerated our growth. And worked really hard for sort of 3 and a bit years, and then the sort of very quick version of the story, an American company kind of approached us and said, we'd like to buy you out. And I said, all right, see you later. That was it. So it was kind of like an accumulation really of sort of skills I'd amassed throughout that time, because even that voluntary work I did at the radio station helped form some of the skills, because we basically made training content. So I was recording the audio or getting my wife to do the voiceovers. Then I was editing the audio. So I had the basic grounding in a few different skills that helped me pull it together. But it was kind of just probably, to answer your question, it was probably just not being content with what I was doing and trying to look for the next thing, and then a lot of luck, being in the right place at the right time, to be fair.
Where does that come from, that drive to want more? Because you said that you were exposed to, not mediocrity per se, but certainly not really like a lack of ambition in Scunthorpe, for example, small town, small mentality. And I would imagine a lot of the people that you were perhaps surrounding yourself with maybe had that as well. What was different about you, do you think?
I think probably, and there's probably tons of psychological reports to back this up, but probably the whole idea, I was the youngest. So I think invariably youngest are more risk-taking. I've probably always been a bit like that from being a kid in a way, because I've always done daft shit. I remember I had a Saturday job. So I'm a Scunthorpe United fan. Someone's got to fucking support it. and I remember I was like, right, I need a Saturday job. There's only one place I want to work in Scunny, and that was this in inverted commas, cool menswear brand, clothing shop. So I was like, I want to work there. So I went in, here's my CV, I want to work here. Well, we haven't got any jobs. No, but I want to work here. Well, can you iron? I couldn't fucking iron. Yeah, I can iron. And then basically got my foot in the door there, got my dad to teach me to iron, because he used to fucking work in menswear and all that sort of stuff, and just blagged my way in. So then I was working on a Saturday, and I was like, well, this was the only place I said I wanted to work. I'm now working there. But now I'm missing fucking Scunny on a Saturday. This is shit. So I was like, well, maybe I can go work at Scunny, and then I can pie this off and watch Scunny. So then I was like, right, I know what I'll do, obviously. I wrote a letter to the Tannoy announcer man or something like that. Wrote a handwritten letter to him saying, I'd like to come and help if I can. So the next thing, someone rings the house phone, the week later, and it's the guy's voice from the fucking Tannoy. Scunny United. Bear in mind, it's quite fucking low level, right? Yeah. It's Scunny United. But to me, as a 14-year-old, I was like, this is fucking class. And then they invited me in, and I just then got a job there. So just daft shit like that, where I just asked. If you don't ask, you don't get. And that's, I've probably always had that in me, and I don't know where from necessarily. I think maybe being the youngest of 3 and stuff like that, I kind of thought, well, fuck it. And then I think, because if you are the sort of person that isn't afraid to ask, you get, it's quite unusual. I think a lot of people don't ask enough. And I think if you do ask, you get a positive result from it, and therefore it reinforces that behaviour. So all throughout my life, I've done that. So Scunny United was an example, getting that Saturday job was an example. going and working the radio station was an example, because I just emailed the radio DJ and said, I'm happy to come in and work for free. Can I come in and just shadow you? Because I'd like to learn. Yeah, come on in. When I first started my business, I wanted to give some credibility to the business. So I reached out on LinkedIn to the United Nations head of global cybercrime and said, can you do a webinar with me? He said, yeah. All right.
Right.
So just shit like that. Just if you're not asked, you don't get it. Fuck it. What's someone going to say? No. I
You've got to lose.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I read a book called Whatever You Think the Opposite. It's really good. I'd recommend it for any entrepreneur or business owner. It's really small. It take you about an hour and a half to read it. Lots of pictures in it, which I like. I think it's Neil Arden or Paul Arden. I can't remember. But anyway, great book. And he's got another one called It's Not How Good You Are, It's How Good You Want to Be, which is, again, a similar vibe. But one of the examples he gives in that is if you want to get into fashion, don't just, write your CV for, I want to be head designer at Gucci, and then get really disappointed at yourself. Say, they didn't give this direct example, but it's my interpretation of it. Go to Topshop and say, can I work here for free for 2 months? I just want to make coffee. They'll probably go, yeah, because it's free labor. So who would turn that down? But over that time, you're going to be exposed to other successful people. 100%. You might drop the coffees into the CEO's office and you might get a little nugget or a little gem. You might smile at them and engage in a conversation. They might go, they seem really friendly. Who's that? Oh, she's just a temp, or he's just, doing part-time work here. Interesting. So the reason why that's so beneficial is because, again, exposure to knowledge in the right environment. You're always learning, but you put yourself in the shop window now, but also you've built your CV up. So not only does it show that you're willing to do free work, but you're also looking at it as an opportunity to go, right, I've got leverage now. If I want to get closer to Gucci, I can say 3 to 6 months experience at Topshop, because just going to Gucci or a big brand, all the best with that. So I encourage this with some of the people that we mentor around business coaching and stuff. And we did this when we first began. We messaged everyone, can we come in and do a free training? Just one free training. Like, well, why? Why would you do that? Like, why not? All I want in return is a positive testimonial and a photo with your team. So if we can do that, then it might give me leverage later on for discussions around, did your team enjoy it? Yeah, they loved it. Maybe we could come back and do some paid work, or maybe they might love what we say and they might reach out to us separately. But now I've got them on my CV.
100%.
I've coached X company. So, there's no downside, but I think that it gets rammed down our throat of know your worth, know your value, know on LinkedIn and on social media about, no, you have to always charge us. Well, respectfully, no one knows who the fuck I am at this stage. So we have to get our name out.
It's difficult, isn't it? I understand like the messaging, because it's like, you shouldn't work for free. Yeah, no one should work for free. And there's also another messaging of like, we're in a privileged position if we can work for free. But particularly if you're starting a business, you've got to fucking work free, because you've got to get that first case study, testimonial, that early stage like validation is really important. So yeah, massively agree with that.
Yeah.
You said you got lucky. So it was a SaaS, wasn't it? Software as a service. Yeah. You said that you got lucky. Was it luck, or was it fucking hard work?
Yeah, like 100% like worked relentlessly hard. Yeah. I think why I own luck a bit is I think so many business owners don't attribute their success to having had a bit of luck. And some people will argue with me till I'm blue in the face about this, but I think it's important that we do admit to it, because I know people who've worked a damn sight harder than me for a lot longer than me and haven't had that opportunity. I always think it's old like, you make your own luck. I somewhat agree with that. I think you work really hard to put yourself in a position where you can benefit from the luck, but that might never come. That window might never be open for you. So for me, I worked and made myself quite poorly, but I think if I hadn't have worked there, I'd have never benefit from that luck or that opportunity. The market conditions, the fact they were looking for a purchase at the time, the fact we'd built what they were looking for, etc., etc. So had I not worked that like exceptionally hard, I wouldn't have got there. But there's also another reality where I work that hard and that never happens. So it's not, I say luck, it's an element of luck. You need natural talent. You need to work hard, like relentlessly hard. And I think that's the bit people definitely underestimate when they're starting a business. And I think to not necessarily generally like success, but I think to have an exit, you need a slice of luck. But I think a lot of people don't like to admit to that slice of luck because it somehow undermines the fact they work really hard.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I was listening to this on Modern Wisdom the other day with Alex Hormozy, went on Chris Williamson's podcast, and I think, I can't remember the exact phrasing that Chris used, but essentially it was like, your skill stacking, as it were. So it's the guy that breaks his leg, goes into hospital, and the nurse comes in, and then lo and behold, she cares for him for a couple of weeks and they build a great bond. And then lo and behold, now they're married and oh my God, how lucky. But then also it's like, yeah, but you're doing yourself a disservice, because if he wasn't charming, if he wasn't good at talking to women, would he have ever attracted that person? But then you say, well, equally, you reassigned that nurse and it could have been somebody else, So, yeah, I think it's kind of like the nature versus nurture thing, isn't it? And the old phrasing, the harder I work, the luckier I get, et cetera, et cetera. But,
and there's some, I think there's truth in that. It's just that, it doesn't always pan out for everybody. Like, for a fact, like, my dad worked way harder than I've ever worked. And it's almost probably insulting the amount of money I've made versus what he has. So there's no way I worked harder than him. So, yeah, it's that element of timing. And maybe it's, instead of luck, you say timing. It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
Is there any guilt around that? Because my dad's got his own plumbing and heating business, very successful, way more financially successful at this point than our business is. However, to attain it, he's had to work 60-hour weeks since he was the age of 16. He's now 66. When I first started and I'm looking at the prices we could charge for our coaching, and I'm like sat at home on a Zoom call and I think about him out with his men on the tools, and I'm like, fucking hell. I almost, I felt a bit of guilt and a bit of like, not necessarily shame around it, but did you have any of that around you, the way you viewed your dad?
No, I don't think so. I think I've always looked at it like my dad worked extremely hard, and that has been a really positive role model for me, as has my mum. But I don't think I've had any guilt of it, because I also think in my case, my dad was an employee of a business, and he never took that risk, and he could have done, different circumstances perhaps, and he might not have had the level of comfort I had and things like that, but he could have took that risk, and the rewards come from the risks. I think he probably would recognise that if we had that chat as well. Like, ultimately, he got what he deserved to something. That sounds negative, but as in, he didn't take the risk, so therefore your big returns don't normally come from staying safe, do they? So, no, I don't think so.
It's interesting what you said about the youngest one is the risk taker.
Yeah.
But I'm interested,
I've just heard it somewhere on a podcast or something. I'm sure there's some sort of psychological thing, because you're always welcome back into the family, even if you make mistakes as a kid, kind of thing. I don't fully know, but
I'm the youngest of three.
Right.
Yeah.
And
have I taken the most risk?
Have your siblings that started a business?
No.
Yeah.
But they've taken risk.
Yeah.
One of them lives abroad now.
Okay.
But no, I'm the only one that started the business.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not inclusive, but it's just interesting. There's something somewhere around that I'd be worth looking at.
Yeah, because I'm the same. My brother's, he works in insurance. He's a team leader in an insurance team. So again, very similar. He prefers the certainty of the salary than he does the uncertainty of
totally
entrepreneurship.
It's stressful, right? Yeah. It's not for everyone, and a lot of people try and fail, and that's the reality of it as well. So you've got to be prepared to fail. And I think going back to some of your earlier questions, I think one of the benefits I did have was because I joined the police quite young and then left. I always thought, well, if I fuck law up, I'll just go back in the police.
Yeah.
And then when I went into law and I started a business, I thought, well, if I fuck that up, I'll just go back into law. I wouldn't have wanted to, but I had almost pretty safe backups in a way.
That's what we did when we started the business. We're like, what is our worst case scenario? What will happen? So if A-Game fails, Smith, what will you do? You can go back to managing bars on X salary, and I'll go back to leading IT teams because my background's tech.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
No, exactly. You wouldn't. You'd take a bit of a hammering on the old pride and stuff, but fuck it, if nothing ventured, nothing gained at the end of the day.
That's it. And it's the first thing we say to people that are starting out in business, look, we're not fucking business gurus 101. It's just, that's so simple in my mind, because when I've gone on other podcasts, people go, it's a very pragmatic way of looking at it. I just see it as, why would you not think that way? That if you figure out that your outgoings are X and your savings are Y, then you've got 8, maybe 12 months, maybe you've got 2 years. But if you follow the data and not your feelings, and your limiting beliefs about what mum and dad say about money, or what your ex-partner might say, or a sibling or a friend, and all you have is the black and white figures. Well, my outgoings are $2,000. Okay. In savings, I've got 50 grand. Great. So if you really wanted to, you could give this thing a whole year without getting a single client and without making a single penny. And then maybe sensory acuity would kick in. You go, actually, shit, maybe I need to recalibrate here. And then maybe you could go work part-time. We talked about this with Jack a few episodes ago, didn't we? And, but as you alluded to there, people don't want that air quote embarrassment of, oh my God, I failed because of what their fucking friends might say.
And also what I see as well, it's not just like the failing of the business. Sometimes they don't want to fail from the social perception of it as well. So they'll have a decent salary, they'll have a nice car on tick, and they won't want to get rid of that car on tick to start the business. I'm like, but you could have 500 quid extra in your business a month to help it go. So, oh yeah, but I don't want to look a twat driving a shit car. What do you want then?
Yeah. What are you doing it for? Because then it goes into the ego state. And one of my favorite quotes ever is, the ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. And when I thought about that, I was like, holy fuck. So basically, if you've got an ego, you're an idiot. Something else that I heard the other day, like, a skeptic can be right 99% of the time. An optimist only needs to be right once. And once that thing hits, and you go, holy shit, this is taking me to the next level now. You go, well, fucking great. Because, that won't work. That ain't going to happen. Yeah, I tried it, didn't work. And you go, see, told you, fucking hell. But if you just keep going, and going back to the luck piece that we said earlier, like Ed Sheeran, he was busking, he was playing to clubs for 7 years before he got signed or what have you. But to your point, there's probably a million plus of other Ed Sheerans that never got that break, right? Who are still on the streets, who are still outperforming.
Well, if you hadn't done it, he wouldn't be there.
That's exactly it, mate. Yeah. So I do find that really interesting about the whole failure piece. But yeah, what do you have to lose other than your ego? Over this time, have you seen people's perceptions of you change? Have you moved away from certain people that may have been a bit of a negative influence on you?
I've probably been quite lucky, I think, to so my core group of mates I've been mates with since school, since infant school, and we've always been quite chalk and cheese. Like, my best mate is very happy in a job. He would never ever start his own business ever, but he's always been my biggest supporter. Weirdly so, sometimes you're like, you should be negative, or I don't know. You sometimes expect people to be negative. Genuinely, the only negativity I've had, I had some negativity from my parents when I was quitting quitting the police, and then B, quitting law. That was definitely what the fuck are you doing? Well, I think the only negativity I've actually genuinely had has been more in a professional setting. So, and I look back now and I think, you fucking cunt. Sorry, I don't know if I should have said that.
No, C-bombs are fine.
Well, so for example, when I left the law firm, they had a team meeting, and the partner there, in her infinite wisdom, announced it as, Eddie's decided to leave because he can't hack it. Oh, weird. And I was like, you fucking what? And I sort of politely put my case forward as you think, because bear in mind, she said that without knowing my background, that I've come from a pretty standard working class background, not from a lot of the privileged background that a lot of the lawyers sometimes do. I've then got myself in 20 grand of debt to study, and then I've gone, I hate it that much, I'm now willing to carry on having that burden of that thingy while giving up the decent pay rise and stuff like that. So to kind of ridicule me like that when I'm starting a business, I just thought, you fucking weapon, that is out of order. So I think, I've sometimes had that negativity, but I always think that's fuel in it, really. Yeah. So I just think, fuck you, I'm going to show you, and then you'll look back. So anyone who's ever it's always been professional. It's never been friends and family. I've been very, very, very lucky, I think, because I think you guys have had some experience of negativity from that, and I think I've been lucky with that. And I don't know why. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to that. I think I've been lucky on that.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because we're from quite an affluent part of the world, in, Harrogate and Knaresborough, or Harrogate, as it's correctly pronounced.
Harrogate.
Yeah, because people go, oh, do you mean Harrogate? I'm like, no, it's Harrogate, darling. Yes. But yeah, Harrogate is...
You're not saying gate properly.
It's part of it's a beautiful part of the world. And ultimately, the most shit we got from people were people we've known for the longest. And for the most part, they're all pretty successful because, again, it's that fluency.
Well, don't you think that? Yeah, I sometimes think, my personal opinion on that is because it's almost a threat to their way of life, their ecosystem, the expectation of what they've achieved and how they've achieved it. Whereas like my mates were like, fucking mint, mate, if you can make a few quid extra, then we've all been it. Like, it was almost like a positive. Yeah. Whereas I wonder if they're like trying to bring you down effectively. Like, because they're probably in a job they fucking hate, but they're getting paid loads of money.
That's exactly it. Because, when it all sort of kicked off from my side of things, it was like, hang on a minute. There's a WhatsApp chat being set up with 12 people in it, ridiculing me openly. Whoa. And one of them had the bollocks after a few months to say, hey, mate, just so you're aware, I've now left this chat and this is happening without you knowing. And I was like, I've still lost all my respect for you, but you've gained a little bit back because you've told me. But at the same time, it's like these people, I'd do an Instagram poll and I'd say, this is when I first started out on my own coaching business before we formed A-Game. Who wants coaching? Or who is looking to change their habits right now, they would all come over to Instagram and vote no. So, and at the time, obviously, most
I know they think they're being funny, but
for fuck's sake.
I think
it's so damaging.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is a really important point is like, if you have a friend or family member starting a business, please, for the love of God, support them.
Yeah.
Buy something from it. I know you're not going to build a business, right, off people giving you sympathy purchases. You're not. But fuck me, they need to know they're supported. Stop spending your money at fucking Weatherspoons or some shite fucking service. Support the people closest to you because that first year is financially draining, emotionally like savage. It's rock hard, isn't it? So you need to know like people are there to support you, not bringing you down.
Yeah, I mean at the time as well, you know what it's like when you first start on Instagram, you have a few hundred followers and you do a poll, no one's going to respond. So obviously you vote, you hope that your partner votes and you hope that your best mate votes. So 100% of people want coaching, right? And then I was looking at it, I was like, 95% of people don't want coaching. It's because all these guys were coming over to my Instagram page and you're like, fucking hell, man. Have you not got anything better to do? You've all got children. And 80% of them had businesses themselves. So it was so hurtful and frustrating because you're like, I've known these guys for 25 years. Been traveling with some of them. I've been at their weddings. And
do you think they thought they were being like funny though? Because I like a bit of crack, but also without being a wanker, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
they just don't want to see you succeeding. It's an insecurity inside there, but like you said, they were already successful because I know who you're referring to.
I was on the cusp of their friendship group basically, so I was never like a diehard quote member of it.
I see this a lot generally with like successful people. They don't like people to like surpass them almost, and I find that strange. Whereas by comparison, my mate who grew up in Scunthorpe with me, like my best mate, when we were doing the train, my wife's doing the voiceover, I'm editing it, I'm making all these fucking shit videos and stuff, and he'd review it for me for free and give me feedback and help me out. Like, basically almost did a part-time job for me for free because he's my mate and he wanted to see me. He's like, this is mint and you should do this, and like really, really encouraging. And I probably had quite a few people like that, which is, like I said, I think that's fortunate.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I didn't really have much people ridiculing me that I knew about. I was in a WhatsApp chat, which is again with a circle of friends that I've been friends with for years. But I think the difference for me was I was away for 4 years. I was out of the country.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really seeing them anyway because I was living in a different country, everything else. And it was when I came back and then I announced that I'm, now doing this, I'm alcohol free and everything else. And when you make a change like that you're alcohol free and telling 14 lads in a WhatsApp chat, by the way, I'm booze free. They were like, what the fuck?
What's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, exactly. So it was more what was going on in that chat and the odd little dig at me. And I just left the chat.
Yeah.
I had to I can't be around that.
No, yeah. That's a really good point. That negativity can really throw you off course. Yeah. But I think you see it online all the time. Like, people are quite happy to hate on people. And then when you start getting a bit of, it goes two ways actually. When people start getting a bit of success, it's suddenly, how did you do that? Even though they were fucking mocking you when you were starting.
Yeah.
But then I think when people get to like an uber level of success, then the hate comes back around again.
Yeah, it was exactly that. It was like something along the lines of, in 2018, I decided to go alcohol free. People mocked me, they rolled their eyes at me. Now they're asking me how I did it.
Have you seen?
It's so true. 4 years later, they'll come up to me going, "Oh, I'm alcohol free." It's like, you ridiculed me. You rolled your eyes at me when I said I was doing it. But now you're 6 months booze free because you've been looking at my content and you're going, "Oh shit, he was right."
Have you watched the James Blunt documentary on Netflix? No. I'd really recommend it because I know that some people think he's a bit.
It's funny. No,
it's funny.
It's proper funny.
But his story is fascinating because at the time it was 18 maybe years ago when he was like at the height of his fame. So that would have been about 18. So you don't pay as much attention to things, but he was massive at one point, like ridiculous, one of the biggest stars in the UK. And it got to a point where You're Beautiful was played on, he said, within the 20 minutes, it was on 6 different radio stations or something stupid. It's like, this is getting overplayed. And someone, one of his media, someone from the media messaged his team and they basically said, just so you're aware, there's essentially a shitstorm coming and we're going to go after James. And like,
brilliant.
What? Why? Like, it's just too overplayed, so we're just going to go after him. Every newspaper, Sun, Daily Mirror, all the shit ones, basically. Well, all the newspapers are shit, but they all went after him, and it was just this thing to now hate James Blunt. And it got so ridiculous that he went to Poland on holiday, and his manager at the time booked him in this hotel, but it was actually under construction, so it looked like a right shithole. And he said, here's my hotel in Poland. And somebody leaked it and went, I can't believe that James Blunt's at Auschwitz ridiculing the, all these dead Jewish people. And you're like,
what?
Yeah. It's like, he said, I couldn't have been further away from Auschwitz. And then the headlines were coming out like, James Blunt laughs at dead Jewish people. And you're like, what the fuck happened? But then what I found so admirable about his turnaround essentially was, right, I'm going to use this and I'm just going to start taking the piss out of myself. Yeah. If all these people are taking the piss out of me, I'm going to do it too.
Interesting though, he must have always been like that. You can't, like, if you're like sort of, like I love a bit of self-deprecate. You can't just turn that on. He must have always been like,
his parents,
sound and laugh and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, he said you had to be in the army.
Exactly.
When you go in and your drill sergeant is going across the dust on your window ledge, and then they pick up all your items and throw them out of the window to a 30-foot drop. He said, if you learn how to laugh at that, you cannot be destroyed by anybody. And, his mum and dad were very stoic and essentially just said, we don't do emotions in our family. So that was a huge part of it as well. But when he went onto Twitter and then started, because his publicist wouldn't allow him to do it at first, but then he just started lashing back at people,
he's funny, isn't he?
Yeah. People were like, I can't stand James Blunt's face. He wouldn't find somewhere else to sit on then. I just love shit like that. And then he became this like cult hero again. Yeah. So to go through such a difficult moment and use it as fuel, as you alluded to earlier, and reframe it in such a way, I thought was an incredible test of character. But I'd recommend watching it because it's only about an hour and a half, but excuse me, it's really interesting.
But I think that's the only option, isn't it? Where you got an option, you can either get pulled down by it, or you just reframe it in your mind and go and use this as fuel. That's all I did.
Exactly. If people try and pull you down, like, fuck them, like, absolutely got to prove them wrong, haven't you? Like, it should be like fuel on your fire. And my wife sort of jokes like, I had a little like black book of people who pissed me off in that professional setting. I was like, I'm going to fucking prove them wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong. It was like competitors being a set of cunts and stuff like that. I was like, do you know what? Fuck them. They can have it when I fucking do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So I saw your post this morning, essentially saying month 1 revenue 0, month 2 revenue £420, month 3 revenue 864. Not quite the 0 to Kajillion figure overnight success story. Some of the self-publishing best-selling plebs on here would make you believe. What is some of the absolute shite that you're seeing online currently that makes your blood boil?
There's a lot in there, truthfully. Like, I just think there's a massive thing on of how easy it is, or anyone can do it. They absolutely fucking can. And that could be you haven't got the aptitude for it, you haven't got the ability to work hard enough for it, or you unfortunately, you aren't in a position to be able to do it. Like, it just depends on your personal circumstances as well, and who you've got supporting you and things like that. So someone made a really interesting point on there actually about like bootstrapping. So I bootstrapped my business, and they made a good point, and I really appreciate it actually, because it's like, we talk and celebrate bootstrapping because they don't raise investment, but there is still some sort of investment that pays your mortgage. And in my case, it was working part-time and my wife's wage. So like, I don't know. I think the thing that pisses me most off on at the minute, particularly, is just how easy people pretend it is, and that we sell it. And that's why a lot of my content is like it is. People maybe think I'm being a bit of a miserable bastard, but I'm not. I'm just trying to be a tonic, because there's so much like how to get rich quick out there, or worse, like people lying about the success. That really fucking boils my piss. There needs to be like a sort of the tonic to that, really, because there's just too much of it.
Yeah, I've got a post scheduled later for this week. It's here's how to make your first 10k month, get one client and charge 10 grand. You know, because people make it out. Yeah, that's it. People just go like, oh, fucking hell. But you know, equally, I think there's another element where people overcomplicate it and go, oh, you know, you need this 27-point plan for blah 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 blah, and you're like, you don't. Like, if you are a coach, for example, and you charge 2.5 to 5k or whatever, it's not just saying I want to earn 10k, because you need to reverse engineer it. To earn 10 grand in a coaching business, yes, you could have residual income. If you're starting from zero, in theory, you need 2 clients to say yes at 5 grand, you need 4 at 2.5, or you need 10 at 1,000, whatever. But if you're doing it at 2.5 for 4 clients, then to get 4 sales calls booked and for them to actually show up, you probably need to have maybe 8 to 10 calls booked, number one. Then, off the back of that, to get 10 calls booked, you probably need to be having 20 to 25 conversations with people to build trust. To have 25 conversations, you probably need to send maybe 50 DMs.
At least.
How many DMs are you sending? Maybe, yeah, exactly. Maybe 150, right? Whatever. But how many DMs are you sending? They go, oh, like 2 a day. Well, you're going to use a shitty stick to hit yourself with then. And this 10k month bullshit, like, it's like 10k steps. It's just a marketing ploy, isn't it?
Fundamentally, it comes down to people don't do the hard yards. And I look at when I was building mine, like, I did genuinely work relentlessly. Like, it was. I look back now, I'm like, I couldn't do that now. I couldn't be asked to do that now, truthfully. I've got kids now, so that probably makes it harder as well. But I couldn't work as hard as I did then again. And maybe I will in the future when something else comes. But I certainly haven't worked as hard as I have since I sold my business. Nowhere near. And I think people are scared of that hard work because it's boring. This is the other thing. The stuff that makes you the money is boring as fuck.
You're right there.
The stuff that's fun, your branding and your fucking your rebrand and your
landing pages.
Yeah, that's all fun. And you're, oh, my copy, this will be fun. No, it won't. It will, but it won't make you any fucking money. The stuff that makes you the money is like dying on your ass, pitching to people, going to networking events, sending cold emails and cold messages. And it's the relentless slog of it, and that's fucking boring.
It is. That's just, we were saying this the other day, weren't we? It's almost like the donkey work.
Yeah.
It's like you got to send all these messages. Your social media posts, it's not going to work. You need to get into the DMs straight away. Get into the DMs. You know, obviously we're a coaching business, and recently we moved into business coaching. And then it just proves, like, because I've been posting every day about being going alcohol free. But all of a sudden now I'm in the DMs.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about business coaching.
You've got to push it, haven't you?
Yeah, people have signed up to our business coaching. I've not even spoken about business coaching at this point.
Yeah. I got a lot of my first early stage bit by doing like old school face-to-face networking. Then there was a lot of DM stuff, and then a lot of ours we did paid ads, and that worked well for us. But again, that sounds like apart from paying for it, they come to you. Well, no, because I started to book them in for a fucking demo, do the demo. Then I had to chase them up for about 3 years till they signed up, which was constantly managing this. So I'd wake up every single day, open the CRM, and there'd be like 50 tasks to do. And I'd have to go on, email such and such, or call so and so, or getting up. It was fucking boring as shit. But and like when I was trying to hire people to do kind of like the sales roles and stuff, I was like, this fucking task list every day, that is what will make you the money, not the demo you did. The demo doesn't make you, like the follow-ups almost do. Particularly with ours, because it's kind of like long lead cycle.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was in the Algarve in the summer and in Quinta del Lago, and there's a like high performance centre called the Campus, and loads of Premier League footballers go there for pre-season training and what have you. And I was just watching, I was in there with like a few of the Nottingham Forest lads and a couple of Newcastle players, and I was watching, there was Anthony Elanga and Morgan Gibbs-White. We're doing this one movement with these resistant bands around their legs for 25 minutes. It was like, right, a little bit more, right, down again, pause, a little bit more, and you're like, and you
Why?
could see, you could see them both going like, for fuck's sake, because talking to the S&C coach, and they're just like, anyway, so you heard them talking, and they were staying at the same hotel as me, and then I just sort of got chatting to them at the pool, and I was like, that intricacy of the work is like, mate, honestly, it's just hours and hours of shit like that, and you just don't see it. People will see the goals and they'll see the this and the that, but we hate it, but we know it's important at the same time. And then you go onto their Instagram, but then it's just highlights of them at this high performance center, and they're loving it.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh fuck me! So
it's something that man likes, is it? I'm just going.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, just like,
and I get it, but it unfortunately though, it's that feeds the
marginal gains.
Yeah,
that's it. It's marginal gains.
They don't share it because it won't get any interaction, right? But we need more people to share it. That's why I did that post this morning. We need more people to share those marginal gains, because otherwise you're only seeing the highlights, you're only seeing the success, and it's like, yeah, but the success is fucking years in the making, isn't it? As we all, and everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But we still just fucking don't listen to it.
There's a certain creator on LinkedIn who I've blocked, and I won't name, but she was just painful. She's got 160,000 followers now. It's not Leah Turner, by the way, because I really like Leah's content. I just want to caveat that. It's this other woman, and it was just fucking nonsense. Like, she's saying, all you need to do is to build your personal brand, you need to use authority, and you need to build your personal brand. And then if you can build that, you'll get followers. And if you get followers, you get money. No. But you're not giving me any information. You're building, air quote, a personal brand by telling other people they need to build a personal brand, but you're not telling them how to do it. And that's the most fucking frustrating thing in the world. You just keep saying, here's how to get more followers. I've got a course on how to get more followers. So you get more followers, but you're not telling them how to do it. Oh my God. And it's just this cesspit of bullshit that essentially is just spiraling round and round and round. And the person at the top, it's kind of like a pyramid scheme in a sense. The person at the top gets all the cash, and all the people below, fuck.
Well, it's just built on sand as well, isn't it? Like, because I think it's Lewis Kemp who always makes a really good point. It's like, if you look at your followers, if you are obsessed with that, then you should be, how much are you monetizing those followers? So there's quite a lot of people who've got like less than 1,000 followers who are making a far lot more money than people who've got 100,000 followers, because 100,000 followers are the wrong followers.
Yeah.
So what's the fucking point? It's just vanity. Yeah. And it's so easy to get caught up in vanity metrics. Like, it really is. And I fall into that trap a few times, but you just gotta fuck that off. Like, the only fucking metric that matters is revenue and profit, right?
Yeah. He said if you're not making £1 for every follower you have, then you fucked it, and if you have that and more, then you sort of, on the right.
I found that a real struggle. So when I spent quite a few years building up like a legal set of connections. Then I spent 3 and a bit years building up cybersecurity connections. So then when I started to talk general business stuff, it's genuinely only now, after probably 3 years of like posting shit about startups, that my audience is really turned into that. Because prior it was like, fucking Derek, the IT manager, ain't going to fucking be liking my shit about startups. The fucking partner who hates me won't.
Yeah.
So it's taken quite a long time for my audience to even shift. And I probably should have started again, truthfully, because it would have been easier.
Yeah.
But people get way too caught up in it, I think. Just fucking try and make some money. Stop fucking dicking around on LinkedIn, just make some money.
What we're talking about before, like the stuff that's sexy and, that's the stuff I get attracted to.
Yeah, we all do.
It took me a couple of years for Smith to keep banging to me, getting the DMs. Yeah. But if he said to me, we need to update the scorecard, or we need this landing page building, I'll be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. But you have to be able to do that. You've got to have that as well. You can't just be a fucking DM whore. You've got to have some substance back. But it's also because the other stuff, the sexy stuff, is easier as well, isn't it? Let's be honest. And there's no hard KPI on that. It's like, I've done this landing page, which may or may not make some money in the next 5 years. Whereas I sent 1,000 DMs and no one fucking wants it. I feel a bit exposed now, don't I? And that's the reality, isn't it?
And it's that judging.
Well, that's where you're vulnerable, isn't it? Correct. Yeah. That's where your business literally lives or dies. Is, are people buying it? It sounds fucking obvious, but
no, it's true. It's true. How you've touched on your kids a couple of times. Also, we were talking about it before. How did becoming a father sort of change your view of the world? Did it change perspective in a lot of ways?
It did. Yeah, I think so. So I had Emmy, my eldest, in the October before I sold my business in the May, and I think I probably had a few people since selling have been almost surprised that, like, why am I not like ripping it up and going again and reapplying everything I know? I'm like, or I could just be a fucking mint dad and just be there for them. Like, I'm very fortunate in terms of financially to be where I am. So, or I could just be a fucking mint dad. And I find it strange that people don't think that should be the priority. They think because I've made some decent money, I should try and make even more. And I'm like, yeah, but how much is enough? How much is enough? And what do you want from your life? Like, I'm lucky that we are in a nice place, and I'd rather just spend my time with my kids. So that means more to me than other things at the minute. I'm not saying that'll always be the way. They're super young at the minute. As they get a bit more independent, I'm sure I'll want to go and build something crazy again. But I think it just reframes, a lot of your wants and needs, really. Like, I am, as happy with them doing whatever they want to do as I would have been in my 20s doing whatever selfish. Because that's the thing. Like, when you have kids, the bit you have to stop being as selfish. And I found that first year a real hard transition, truthfully, because I was kind of like, we just sold the business, remember, as well. So it's like, oh fuck, if we'd have sold it a year earlier, we could have gone traveling the world, right? But you soon don't care because they are your world, truthfully.
Yeah, that resonates for me, mate. Yeah. Well, I'm still obviously quite young into it, a 2.5-year-old and 13, week old. So it's amazing, as you say.
It's hard,
it's fucking hard. Yeah. You have to adapt. It's a friend of mine said he's got 5 kids now. Oof. Yeah. And he said, sorry, let me correct that. 4. Sorry. I think it was 4. And, if he watches back, he said, Adam, this is your life now with your perfect, child life. This is your world.
Yeah.
And he was right. The thing is, he was so right. It's the little things that you didn't know that even became a thing is now it's like, what?
You think prior to time you would care.
Yeah.
And it switches and you don't. And it is completely different. Like, I am a lot different to what I used to be. Hopefully for the better. But yeah, it's the best thing.
Yeah.
It's class.
What were some of the things specifically that shifted your mindset about? Was it more, I used to really care about X and now after the kids it's Y, or what was that?
I think it was probably, it's just the level of selfishness you could have changes. So, because you can just, you just do what you want when you want. It's as simple as that. Like, I undoubtedly would have gone on some fucking amazing holidays if I was just me and the missus with no kids. So it's that almost like, I don't know, not selflessness, I guess. But it's sacrifice, isn't it? I don't know, but it don't feel like sacrifice because they're your kids, man. That's all you care about. So I don't know. I think it's just a slight change in your approach to life. I don't think, it's just, it's a different life. You kind of just, it's kind of before and after. There's not, it's quite different.
Yeah. Because our business coach said there's no such thing as sacrifice. There's only your choices. And at first I thought, no, I don't agree with that. And then I reflected on it. I was like, spot on. Because it depends on how strong the goal is. If you want to start on a fitness journey and lose loads of weight and you go, oh God, I'm sacrificing date nights and I'm sacrificing takeaways, you've got the wrong mindset.
100%.
Because you have to decide, you have to give yourself enough leverage towards seeking pleasure and enough leverage to move away from the pain. Otherwise, you'll always go back to being mediocre, average, and complaining that you didn't get the result for the work that you didn't fucking do.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't believe in that at all, because his brother-in-law or something said, you're a shit dad. And he's like, oh, okay, interesting. How have you come to that conclusion? He's like, well, you're always away, because he's around the world doing speeches and stuff. He's like, what I will say is, when I am here, I am so present with everything that I do with my kids. There's no phone, there's no emails, no nothing. Now, just because you're at home all the time and you're checking your fucking email, who's the shit dad really? And I was like, ooh, I like that. Because, it's not like he's away for 4 months on end. He might go away for 2-3 nights doing a speech in, fucking Barcelona or whatever. Then he comes back and then he goes off to London and he's in, whatever. But just because you're physically there doesn't mean that, you're mentally there.
No, exactly.
And you're showing your kids how to use an iPad better by using on your phone. That doesn't make you a good dad. And, they obviously had the differences of opinion around that. But then he said, no, he started to see my view of the world after that, because just by, showing up every day doesn't mean fuck all if you're not actually engaging, if you don't care, if you don't ask other questions. And, it's interesting that. So, When you say you sold the business and you I don't know how it works, so pardon my ignorance, but I remember hearing about an example from when Bartlett said it. He said, one day I just saw 10 million quid in my bank and I've never been more miserable. Was it a case of was it a case of a chunk of change landing in, and how did you feel in the moment, and how did you reflect on it a few days after?
Yeah,
it's a gradual process.
It's quite surreal, truthfully. So obviously the conversations had been bubbling between the August when they first reached out. Obviously I had the birth of my child in the meantime, and then in May it concluded. And mine was structured, so I got a chunk of it, 50% basically up front, and then the next 50% spread over 2 years because I had to work for them, which a lot of people are like, oh God, it's fucking mint. I got to go in at a director level of a massive NASDAQ listed company, 5,000 employees, turnover $1 billion, like it's great experience.
Holy shit.
Yeah. For me, it's at a board level, like it's class.
Awesome.
And they paid me ridiculous. The sort of joke was, if they'd have offered me the wage first, I'd have taken half in my I said to my wife, like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Clueless, these guys. Don't know where I'm from, clearly.
Yeah.
But the day, so it was lockdown when the deal happened. So I was in the city centre of Manchester in Spinningfields, and I'm walking down Deansgate, not a soul there. Like, I think it was just like a local kind of co-op open or whatever. And just me and again, in a law firm, normally be real busy, just me and the partner signing the document. So it was already surreal for that. And then you sign the documents, and then, you're sort of waiting for the cash to land. And I can't remember. I think it came in like overnight. So it wasn't until the next morning that you could then see the numbers. I definitely didn't fucking put my card in the machine and go, oh God, I'm so unhappy. You fucking what?
Yeah.
Have a word. I was like, oh fuck. That's ridiculous. But the bit that I probably didn't prepare for was like, I don't know what to feel. I definitely didn't feel whatever Stephen Bartlett said, unhappy or whatever did he say. What did he say?
It was essentially saying that I've never been more miserable because I thought it was going to fill a void that it.
But but that's dumb. I didn't think that. I just thought, this is going to give me financial freedom and we can do whatever we want, and that will make me happier than what I have been. So and take off a lot of stress and blah, blah, blah. So I think it depends how you level your own expectations. Because again, in the selling process, my mum said to me, she was like, are you not going to be upset to effectively sell your life's work? And I was like, well, not really, because I was never completely wrapped up in that as my identity. I think if I was, it would have ripped a hole out of me, and probably part of me died with it and all that stuff. But it didn't, because I saw it as an asset that eventually I might sell, although I didn't plan to sell it originally. But that is, it's an asset, like a house. I didn't cry when I sold my old house. I just was like, cool, someone else got it now. I'm on to the next. So I don't sort of buy into the whole woe is me, I've just sold a business and made loads of money sort of rhetoric. But it probably just, it did, the thing it did challenge me with, I think, was no one teaches you what to do when you've got quite a big pot of cash, because then all of a sudden you get these different types of salesmen crawling out the woodwork who want to take your money and do this with it or do that with it,
invest it or whatever.
And they're not in your own fucking interest at all, are they? And also being from the background that I am, didn't know anyone else who sold a business or had that sort of money either. So it was kind of I felt quite isolated on that, but certainly not unhappy, and nothing a bit of Googling didn't fix. You know what I mean? You could still figure shit out. You're not stupid all of a sudden. So you just, kind of learn to manage it. And I think because I probably had that nice buffer of going into that job. They paid me a lot of money. I largely didn't do a great deal, to be fair, because they basically said, well, don't worry about sales. We're going to carry on doing that ourselves. You don't need to do that. Don't worry about marketing. I was like, okay, we're going to roll your company into ours. All we want you to do is carry on making the training content effectively. So even the SaaS bit of our business, they just fucking mothballed out. They weren't asked by that. So the content, because we'd got our own team and making content at a much quicker rate and better content than they were. But I'd already done a lot of that work to make that run by itself. So I literally had no to do, really. So I probably had that cushion as well going into that, because that helped me, I guess, adjust to the new life. It was also COVID, so that was fucking weird because we were sat at home anyway. So I wouldn't be able to do it even if I had not been working for them, for example. So, don't know. It was different. It was just, I don't think it was like a big life-changing moment. Like, I was like, oh, now all my dreams have come true. It was just kind of like, cool, I've achieved it. And now let's see what the next stage is. And I was quite pragmatic about it. Probably a bit of a boring bastard, if I'm honest.
It created your options.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
This is it, right?
My view on it is that money's not going to make you happy.
Correct.
It's going to make things easier and give you more options.
100%. Money doesn't make you happy. Correct. Does it give you the options to make you happy? It fucking does. Yeah. I can tell you now, I'm a lot happier than I've ever been because I don't have as much stress as I've ever had. Like, that's a byproduct.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, isn't it? It's what it helps remove, I think, as opposed to what it adds, because it's all about that perspective piece again. For some people today, their biggest problem is that daddy bought a black Ferrari for their 16th birthday and not a red one.
Yeah.
And then other people's biggest problem is I have 2 immunisation packs and I've got 3 kids and one of them's going to die.
I think that's really, like, exercising gratitude is one of the most powerful things you'll ever do. And I've said, like, all the way along, like, I am very lucky. Maybe not luck, but, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity I've had. And it's about, making those right decisions and the next steps, but being appreciative of what you've got. Because there's loads of people I know who've sold business and then, like, they've just spunked it all on the sort of vanity stuff. Whereas I've been like, well, like, don't get me wrong, I've got a nice house, but I've got a 2019 John Cooper Works. Why? Because I don't want to spend any money on a car at the minute. I've got a house to finish that I'm spending loads of money on, so I'd rather finish that. And that's the car I wanted when I was 18, so I fucking bought that instead. But it's like, people are like, why are you not driving like a brand new fucking...
You don't want to.
I'm not as I think as well, we've said this before a few times. Yeah, like, in the UK in particular, I don't know why we're like this, but let's say you bought a Lamborghini and you go, I look super cool. What I think is one of the most sad things around is most people think you're a prick. And when you're in like Dubai or parts of America, you'd be like, whoa, my God, man, you know, Lamborghini, da da da. In the UK, if you pull up at a traffic light, people going wanker, and then they might key it.
I see a lot on like LinkedIn, like people, it's just flashing it and like they've got a nice house, so they have to do the videos in the house. I've got quite a nice house. You'll never ever see me do a video in or around my house.
Why ever? It's like an advert for burglars. Are you mental?
No, not even that. It's my fucking space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I want that to be public. So but it depends. But it depends on your own level of contentment, because the people who are doing that trying to flex for whatever reason they're trying to flex for.
Yeah, it's trying to fill a void, isn't it? Again,
I think so. It's social acceptance or whatever it might be.
The validation piece, and if I get enough likes on it, then it means that it's worthwhile. But I remember when I first started coaching, I was coaching this girl who was like one of the most beautiful people you'll ever see. And on her Instagram, she had 20,000 followers. And, you know, she used to, every week, the pictures got more and more revealing because she wasn't getting, air quote, as many likes as she thought. And then one day she put a picture up of her and her mum smiling, saying, you know, love this woman to death, da 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 da. And it was her most liked post. Oh, it's because my body's horrible, isn't it? So maybe it's because it's a human picture with your mother saying how much you admire her, because there's plenty of other people on the internet who are in thongs and bikinis. But I just found it so interesting that her perspective was that not as many people have clicked a button on an application, which therefore means I'm okay or I'm good enough. I was like, what number is good enough? Is it 2,000 likes?
Exactly, because you get 2,000 likes consistently for 2 weeks. Then that's going to be your normal as well.
Correct.
And what's your new normal? You've got to decide. I think it's really important to decide what will make you happy, but like, where do you really want to be? Like, what's realistic and what will make you happy? And do some thinking around. So for me, if I can have like a few nice things in life, I quite like cars and things like that, but I'm not overly arsed by them. So if I can just be happy with a decent car, my kids are happy, blah, 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 then that's way better. But I could also be like, I want the fucking brand new Ferrari and I want a house in fucking Cheshire Triangle and all that. I'm not fucking interested in it. I want to be like with the normal folks. I want to go stand and get a burger at Scunthorpe United like I normally do, because that's what I like doing.
Yeah. We've said this before, haven't we? Like, not to sound like a dick, but I genuinely believe with the model we have and everything else, we could be millionaires now. The reason why is because we know the model that works. So the reason how we do that is by working 16 to 18 hours a day. If we did that and we were DMing every single person that had a fucking LinkedIn account and we were pushing this and doing that and growing the team and we could, but we're not willing to. And equally, we're not complaining that we're not. So, you know, that's the difference. And it's like, you know, that I've said that before and someone called me out for it and said, oh, that's a really arrogant way of viewing it. I said, I think it's completely the opposite. I'm not saying that I'm deciding not to have more money. What I'm saying is that, it's like we touched on earlier, all you have is your choices. Correct. Because it's not sacrifice, it's a choice. And, you know, we have a good life, we have a good business, and we believe that it could grow because we had a meeting a couple of years ago. I'll never forget it. Ironically, it was with an owner of a health and wellbeing app. And granted, it was quite a warm day outside, but he was sat sweating in a meeting in an air-conditioned room like this. And he had a Red Bull and he had this fucking Ginster's pasty on it. And I was like, he's like,
yeah.
And it was probably about 4 stone overweight. And I thought, you own a health and wellbeing app. If we own if we own a high performance coaching business, not only do we need to be in physical shape, we need to be in a good mental state as well. So how do we look after ourselves in order to do that? And granted, this guy's a multi-millionaire, the business is fucking massive, whatever. But like, mate, at what cost again? Like, look at the state of what's going on.
And what do you guys want? And that's something to think about. And it's like, if you've got a nice house, you've got loved ones around you, like, what does that £1 million business change? Does it change anything? Like for me and my wife and kids, we've bought a nicer house, but we're doing loads of fucking work to it. So we put ourselves in a position of stress again because we quite like that short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. Loads of people think we're fucking mad for that, by the way. They're like, we're going to buy a finished house. It's like, well, don't know. I quite like that bit of self-sacrifice to get that thing I really want. That's uniquely mine. But having a think around like, what if you got £2 million on your lap tomorrow, £5 million, £10 million? What does that change? Like, does it mean you go and buy a house in a completely different part of the world? Does it just exaggerate and enhance the bits you want it to? And that's hopefully the answer, right?
A few moments ago, you said exercise and gratitude is really powerful, and that can lead to happiness.
Yeah.
Were you doing that? Were you practicing gratitude when you were building the business, or was that something you did after?
Probably not. Probably afterwards. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know, rightly or wrongly, there's probably some fucking psychotherapist who can give me some help at some point. But genuinely, and this, I never want to glorify like the hustle because I think that's really negative in its own right. But like, I was too busy fucking working. I've got PT now and all that sort of stuff, but I didn't then. I used to go to the gym a lot. When I was building the business, I didn't. Wrong move. Shouldn't have done. Had health problems. Not health problems. I sort of had collapsed one evening as a result of stress and everything else because I wasn't looking after myself. But I also recognised that some of my sacrifices, not all, some of my sacrifices were needed to build the business that I built, and it wouldn't have been where it was without that. So it's the thing you said earlier, it's choosing the things you are willing to sacrifice. So interestingly, I was happy sacrificing the gym when I was building my business, but I never ever sacrificed my Thursday night of five-a-side football because for me, that was two things. It was like my 60 minutes of cardio a week. Not enough, I appreciate. But it was also the 1 hour of the week I turned off. That was like carte blank. Even to this day, it still is the days like that is, I just don't book anything else. I do, I know we're going to need a babysitter because Eddie just won't compromise on it. That might sound a bit stubborn and maybe it is. But it's because I needed that. That was like, I needed that constant and I needed that like escape.
I think that's right though, because then you can turn up as super dad. Your partner says to you, go to the fucking gym.
Yeah.
You're doing my Eddie.
And then, because you need it out your system and then you're good to go again. It's like a reset sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not, because we've coached, over 500 people, and some of the guys that we coach, they sort of say, the missus is saying like, you're going to the gym again. It's like, you just communicate with her and said, look, if you don't go, it's not like you're going to the gym and pissing about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're doing it for this so you can be a better person.
Correct.
To be a better dad and a better husband and everything else. Correct. It's like, for me, it's just, I have to go.
So that's a communication, like, issue potentially, and they need to communicate how important that is. Because I remember sort of communicating that to my missus, like, this is vitally important to my like physical and mental well-being, basically. And it became a non-negotiable because it was a positive thing, not because I was being an ass and, going for golf, play golf or some bullshit. It was like, I needed it.
We say this all the time. There's communication, which we all do every single day, but there's crystal clear and effective communication. And that's the difference. And, I had it on, I think it was like last Thursday with a client as well. It's like, oh yeah, most has had a go at me because I said I want to go out in the morning on my bike because we've got, a relatively newborn. I was like, how are you explaining it to her? I said, I want to go out on my bike. Right. I'm imagining that her response is going to be, you're going out on your bike and I'm knee deep in fucking nappies. And he's like, oh, that's pretty much exactly what happened. I was like, right. So what's a more effective way of doing this, do you think? Well, maybe I could tell her that, it gives me my release and because he works a stressful job and he's a traveling salesman and da-da-da-da-da. And this is the impact.
Some time for her. So she did the same thing. And
that's exactly it. So then it can be a bit of a trade-off where, you do the cycling in the morning. She might go to a yoga class on the evening. So you're working as a team because a lot of people are working against each other. Like, it's a striker against a centre-back. And you're like, no, you're centre-back partners. How can we make this more pleasurable? How can we make this more enjoyable? And I think that unfortunately we fall into this sort of societal matrix whereby she'll have 3 or 4 other people that she's hanging around with. They'll probably say the same thing. And we work with a lot of men that are maybe 45, 50 plus, and they're really frustrated because the partner's not having sex with them. They're not having sex with them because their mates are going, oh, I'm not having sex with my partner. Because, okay, granted, they might be going through menopause or different challenges, but who you hang around with, who you'll become. So if you're surrounding yourself with 4 or 5 other people in a fucking echo chamber, then you're going to go, this is normal because you've got all the evidence to back it up because that's the only view of the world that you have. And, what you were referring to earlier, it's the same around Scunthorpe. Is it the most inspirational, aspirational place in the world? Probably not. But when you break free from that, and if you took your attitude, work ethic and knowledge that you have and went down to London, you could probably 3-4x your worth, right? But it's whether you want to again, and it's just choices. So yeah, I find that fascinating. And it's good that you have that because I think so many people in your position don't have that and they sort of forget almost where they came from, what's important to them. They lose sight of things. And it's very refreshing to speak to someone in your position that is as grounded as you are, to be honest, without blowing smoke up your ass. Still a knobber from Scunny, right? No, I'm only joking. So what is sort of next for you? What have you given any big thought to it? Like other projects? I know you've built this beautiful space that we're sitting in now, but...
Yeah, so obviously I sold it. I had to work for that company for a couple of years, but I always sort of had in my mind, I was like, what I don't want to do is I know money's not easy to come by, right? So I can't fucking just blow this money. So I have probably been a bit of a boring bastard with it, if I'm honest. And so, I say a boring bastard.
I was going to say, look what you've built.
Yeah. So, I bought it. Yeah, I remember one of my original ideas was like, we want a nice house. That's a chunk of money. But the problem is that money doesn't make any money. That's literally just where we're going to live. So that is a loss. So the rest of the money I need to make work for us. And so one of my ideas when I sold the business was I think a co-working in the suburbs would work really well if I can find a cool building. Fast forward a little bit, I found this place. It was an old chapel. It was still a chapel, a church. And I just sort of rang me and said, I think I bought a fucking church.
What?
Here we go.
You mean you bought a church? Yeah.
It's an idea that I loosely mentioned briefly once when we'd had a few pints. Yeah, I've just gone all in on that. But my intention was this is then an asset and an income, right? So I own the asset and it's also an income revenue stream. And more than that, which I probably did appreciate at the time, but appreciating more now than ever, is it's also its own vehicle for better things. So there's people in this building that genuinely inspire me that are doing amazing, cool shit. There's also people coming in all the time. The conversation we're having now, this wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have put this here. So that is an amazing byproduct. So I'm very fortunate now to have an asset, an income, a social life, colleagues, network opportunities, that have come from this. And I think that'll continue. I've founded a couple of other businesses, but this is ultimately this sort of been the focus. I think what I'd like to go back to, and I sort of started it when I first sold the business, was trying to help people at that very early inception stage of business. So I started a thing called GoFound, which originally was an online community. And I sort of lost my way with it because I wasn't fully, invested it out. I hadn't fully applied myself to it. I just ironically spent money to try and fix the problems, like by developing this platform and all this sort of stuff, and just wasted money on it. So I'd probably like to I'll go back almost to my kind of roots of, I'd like to help more people. And I think, part of it was, if I get this place set up, that like is a nice like investment in asset. But now what can I do to kind of help people not do what I've done, but just help people on their way? So probably go back to that. And then I guess as my kids get a bit older, I'm in a better position than I've ever been to be alive to opportunities. They're too young at the minute, I think, in terms of would I want to go like balls deep into another business, like properly head on. I probably wouldn't, but I think give it a year or two and I might. So when they're a bit more sort of self-reliant, I'm probably, I don't think my business I sold was my last rodeo, put it that way.
How old are they?
Nearly 5 and 3.
Yeah, that'll be the same.
So another couple of years, and I think I might fancy it.
Amazing. So,
tell my wife.
No.
Bought another church.
Yeah. We always ask this question, mate. What does being on your A game mean to you?
Being on my A game, for me personally, probably means I am in the zone. I'm focused on the stuff that I should be focused on, not the bullshit. But maintaining and hopefully still being a decent person throughout it as well. Like, I see a lot of people who are high performers who are set cunts. And I don't think you need to be a complete twat to win. I think you can win, but also still be decent. So I think, for me, working hard, hopefully being sound enough still, and trying to help other people get on their A game, I think.
Where can people find out more information about you? We'll put all your details in the show notes as well. But
sure, probably just LinkedIn. Eddie Whittingham on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, so happy to help if I can or answer questions or whatever. It is me. I'm not one of them. Just found that out. I am actually talking on there.